Who wrecked Britain? It's not who they say it was. Let's say that right off the bat. Many people are discussing this issue. Incoming Prime Minister Andy Burnham and his supporters in the Labour Party place a lot of the blame on Margaret Thatcher for privatising British rail and utilities, among other things.
Britain took a series of wrong turns in the 1980s. Political power was centralised and economic power was privatised. The country surrendered control of the essentials: housing, water, energy, transport, and left people exposed to higher costs.
He blames her for accelerating the deindustrialization of Britain and encouraging the economic liberalization of the country at the expense of community and social cohesion.
Mr. Speaker, Power Gen will be sold off at the highest price.
This is one of those cases where you can be right about almost every single point and yet still be wrong about the overall problem. Nigerian immigrant John Bosco Nwagbo, who leads a pro-public ownership group called We Own It, recently appeared on LBC and cheered Burnham's arguments against Thatcher.
That she wrecked the British state and did so in such a way that has crippled it for the last 30, 40 years and handed over the essentials of life to people who care nothing more about it than to extract profit from it. And Andy Burnham was absolutely spot on.
Conservative leader Lord Peter Lilly, who incidentally is from Kent, where my family hailed from 4 centuries ago, dismissed these anti-Thatcher arguments as ridiculous.
I've never heard anything so ridiculous in my life. To blame Mrs. Thatcher for everything that happened in the 36 years after she ceased to be in power is, well, it's attributing to her powers that even she would not have sought.
What's the truth of the matter? Well, as I see it, Thatcher can rightly be blamed for transforming the British economy from productive industry to finance. Burnham also makes a compelling case against the privatization of British utilities. These were public goods that were sold on the market to investors looking to profit for running them.
Mr. Speaker, how can anyone who's selling off the electricity industry say that they're trying to get a good deal for the country in any case? Most of all, how can anyone selling off that industry at a third of its value say they're getting good value for the country?
So there are ample points to argue against Thatcher's economic program. However, objectively, Margaret Thatcher's economic policies did not wreck Britain. Her mistakes could have been reversed by the Labour and Conservative governments which followed her, but they were not. Economic policies can always be changed. Russia, China, and other countries transitioned from economic communism to state capitalism, for example. So who really wrecked Britain? To answer this, let's look at the top 5 problems the British public is concerned about. They are, in order, immigration, the economy, crime, the NHS, and cost of living. I would argue that immigration is either the leading issue itself or a major contributor to each of the other 4. Britain has received 22 million immigrants since Margaret Thatcher came into power in 1979. 22 million. That's 31% of the total population of Britain today.
Essentially the inheritance of the country that was built, cultivated by my ancestors, has been given away to anybody who would come here, and the government has been the midwife to that project.
And no one voted for this. Nobody in Britain in 1979 said, you know what, we ought to bring in 22 million people, mostly from the third world. No one supported that, but it was done anyhow by the British political establishment, and it was a bipartisan effort. The worst offenders were Tony Blair with 5.2 million, David Cameron with 3.5 million, Margaret Thatcher with 3.2 million, Boris Johnson with 2.8 million, John Major with 2.4 million, and Rishi Sunak with 2.3 million. So who wrecked Britain? These people did. They brought in 22 million people, mostly from third world societies that are incompatible with British society. These immigrants strained the British economy. Many received public welfare in one form or another, meaning that British tax money doesn't go as far as it used to.
Eye-popping new research has revealed that migrant households received an incredible more than £15 billion in benefits payments from the Department for Work and Pensions during an 18-month period.
They have contributed enormously to the crime problem in Britain. I'm thinking especially of the grooming gang scandal, which was mostly a Pakistani operation. 250,000 young British girls were victims of these gangs.
As you know, I don't call them grooming gangs. I call it Pakistani rape gangs, because 95% of these people are Pakistanis.
The 22 million immigrants also strained the NHS system to an incredible degree.
Over the past 5 years, we've given nearly 1 million of these free NHS passes to migrants and asylum seekers.
And they have contributed to the cost of living and inflation problems as governments have inflated the monetary supply to provide for them, hurting nearly everyone in the process. So who wrecked Britain? It wasn't Margaret Thatcher's economic policies. It was a system. It was the political establishment, the elites, the leaders of both major political parties and their primary donors. These people have victimized the British people tremendously in my lifetime. They have made Britain a nearly unrecognizable country. And the only way to fix it is to deny them power, to take power away from them, and to reverse the anti-British policies, especially immigration, that they have enacted over the last 50 years. What do you think? Is Thatcher to blame for wrecking Britain? Or is it the political establishment in general that is the culprit? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy this content, thank you for liking the video and subscribing to the channel. And I'll be back with you very soon.